Welcome to the Gloves Are Off Overtime Edition. I'm Moses Woldu. I'm joined by Greg Buchanan, of course, my co-host, and the CPCA radio announcers. Done a fantastic job, especially out in Meadow Lake. Great finish out there. Glad to have you on.
Yes, not too bad at all, and now heading off to Dewberry.
Excellent. And we have the mayor, the outgoing mayor, Mr. Jeff Mulligan. Of course, 9 years it's been?
4 years as the mayor.
Wow,
yeah, it just
time
seemed
flies.
Like 9. Yeah,
But you've done a fantastic job in terms of the growth and, of course, spearheading Hockey Day, which will be here in 2014. We're happy to have you on.
We're proud of the team we put together. I think we've done some great things.
All right, we'll start off with some people who are proud, like Hunter Mahan, who's a proud parent now. He left after leading the 2 rounds at the Canadian Open and decided to go back to Texas to be with his wife, who was in early labor. Now, $1 million was at stake here. Brent Snedeker ended up winning the thing. Now, if you were Hunter Mahan, well, especially if his wife, I would say, you know what? Win me the $1 million, win the kid $1 million, worry about us later. Or do you think, you know what, Hunter did the right thing in this situation?
You know what? I think family comes first. It doesn't matter what money it is. It's $1 million. It is $1 million. Okay. But he has a great career ahead of him. You can only have the birth of your child once.
And it's their first child, so
yeah,
that's
exactly.
an excuse. Or not an excuse,
the brownie
but
points
legitimate.
he earned with his beautiful wife for doing that will last him far longer than $1 million ever would have, or a title.
Now, I will say this. It's the Canadian Open. If this was, say, a week earlier and it was the British Open, would you be saying the same thing?
I believe you would.
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to stick around. It's a little farther. I'm out here. Especially if he was leading, there's a lot more money.
I think that comes into play, too, that she went into premature labor, too.
Yeah, she was 4 weeks
early. She's 4 weeks early, so you never know.
The number of unknowns, what kind of medical authorities were going to have to be given by a spouse, potentially. Yeah, I think he did the right thing, and he would have done the right thing if it was a British Open. He's playing some of the best golf of anyone in the world today. He's going to be up around the top 5 players, 8 players in the world for a long time. You know what? $1 million in a title here, for him, isn't a very big deal. I'm imagining his contract with Ping is worth much more than that.
All right, guys. The Toronto Maple Leafs offer GM Dave Nonis a 5-year extension after 1 season with a team some argue was built by the previous general manager, that, of course, being Brian Burke. With this move, does it make you scratch your head that Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment would give this guy another 5 years instead of maybe waiting another season or 2? Because he only had 2 years left in his previous contract.
Anything Toronto does doesn't have me scratching my head because it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. You know, everything they do doesn't make sense sometimes. And Brian Burke, yeah, he did build that up. He did some really bizarre trades. He signed some players that you just kind of left wondering, Brian, what are you doing? But yeah, you know, they need somebody at the helm. They need a stability there, and I think he'll do eventually a good job.
I think it's like Maple Leaf Sports dating on the rebound. I mean, Nonis is the antithesis, you know, of what everything Burke was known for. So they go, what we ought to do is hop into bed for the long term with the opposite of what we had because we got some bad press.
All right, guys. What about the Blue Jays, who are known for having bad press recently? Of course, another loss in Oakland. Can it get worse for the Toronto Blue Jays?
Oh, yeah. It's going to get a lot worse. Come on. They're a team that looks uninspired. I know watching them on the weekend, they played against Houston. Houston, who's worse than them. Yeah, it's going to get worse before it gets better, and it won't get better until February.
This is something, you know, we always talk about our coaches overrated, you know, and we say, well, they fire the coach, and the coaches are overrated, they're getting paid too much. This is a team that on paper has as much talent as any team in the league and more. Has been the general manager's brought players. What's missing? There's some glue missing here. There's something very wrong in that clubhouse. And so, you know, sometimes we say that coaching's overrated. This is what happens when coaching doesn't work, I think.
Maybe it's getting a little too cliquey with the Blue Jays, and that's what happened in '92 or early on with Fred McGriff and Tony Fernandez. That's why they were dealt for Carter and Alomar, ended up winning 2 World Series. So if they're on the cusp, maybe another trade will be needed.
On paper, there's nothing like that team.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens come, like you say, February during the offseason. Winnipeg Jets can't really bring in free agents, so they're signing their core themselves. Over $100 million spent by their general manager. Winnipeg Jets lock up Zach Bogosian, 7 years, $36 million, which is about $5.14 million per. Good move or too much?
And the RCMP should come in and lock up the people who signed that deal. Because are you telling me that in 7 years there isn't going to be better talent come along than Zach Bogosian that you're going to need to address and deal with. I understand that this guarantees you a certain payroll, but this is insane. The players were locked out, essentially, because they wanted longer-term contracts. The owners lobbied hard during that negotiation saying, long-term contracts are a mistake. How many times do we have to have DiPietro? How many times do we have to pay out?
We don't have
you know,
15 years
Yashins?
anymore.
But-
how many times are we going to run into this? It's a difficult game, played at a high speed. Bodies change, teams change. 7 years is insane.
It is insane, and it's insane for a defenseman that on outside of Winnipeg, he's maybe a 5th or 6th D man. Really, $5 million. You know, he's solid for what Winnipeg has, but is he a $5 million a year defenseman? Not even close.
The argument that you lock it up your salary and you got to figure it out is ridiculous, because in 3 years, are you telling me that there wouldn't be enough coming and going, enough movement out, movement in, that you wouldn't have another wave of players, that you wouldn't have the opportunity to balance that payroll?
It's Winnipeg.
It's insane.
Winnipeg. It's almost like Edmonton. You have to build a winner before you could
It's
actually bring in
insane.
free agents. Let's be honest. Hey, let's talk about this very quick. Donovan McNabb, looking at his body of work and what he did, the Philadelphia Eagles going to put him in their Team Hall of Fame, retire his jersey. Probably one of the most underappreciated or underrated quarterbacks in the NFL,
No, I think so.
or in the history of the NFL.
He was drafted by Philadelphia,
Booed.
and they booed him. Like, they didn't just boo him; they booed him for a good 20 minutes, and you felt sorry for the guy. And the thing is, he was kind of the guy that they always picked on in Philadelphia. Philadelphia, trust me, I talked to Scotty a few times. It's a great city when you're winning. When you're losing, you better find a hole to climb into.
Think about what this guy did. It was very godlike if you look at what he's done. 5 straight NFC championships with very little offense. He led him to a Super Bowl appearance. You got to think this guy should be at least loved by this city, maybe a statue erected by Philadelphia Stadium.
I think as Canadians, we look over the 49th parallel and we look at a player like Donovan McNabb with great respect. I think we have a soft spot as Canadians and say, you know, geez, you know, we want to embrace this guy. He's getting abused by the people in Philadelphia. Canadians, we have a softer spot. At the end of the day, did he deliver the goods? The goods are ultimately a Super Bowl. So Philadelphia, in their minds, has every right to abuse him.
Hey, I'll say provide the goods. Well, I'm sure Edmonton Oilers fans are still appreciating Sheldon Surrey. Let's put it that way.
That's right.
They hate as much as they love
That's
when it
right.
comes to their sports. Hey, thanks a lot, guys. You guys definitely have a love-hate relationship with me, but at least you kept it peaceful this time. Appreciate it. Once again, Greg.
Thanks,
and once
Moses.
again, Mr. Mayor Jeff Mulligan.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for joining us on the overtime edition of Gloves. Please tune in every Tuesday night, 7:30 CITL. We'll see you in 7 days.